You want to do a brief introduction, Steve, about dialing in, or we just?
No, so for those who are online, in order to take public comment, we're doing that in person only.
Okay.
We're not doing any other way unless somebody has left an email directly to this. I don't believe that was done today.
Okay, great.
Okay, that's been checked and it's fine.
All right.
We are recording the meeting for those who are here and for those who wish to watch from home.
Okay.
Oops, I didn't say that on the, sorry. We are recording the meeting for those who wish to watch from home. And public comment is only being taken if you're here in person.
Okay, it's 5 after 5. I'm calling the EAC meeting for Newtown Township together on September the 6th. I'll start off with the call to order. Harry Bryant. Here. Janet Kravanis.
Here.
Cindy Mahalo.
Here.
Joe Pinto. Here. Sheila O'Sullivan Feeney and Dane Shoemaker. Have the full group here tonight. Next, a moment of silence. Okay, pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 4 on our agenda this evening is to approve this agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
I would like to move that we add 2 items to the agenda.
Okay,
One is the consideration of asking for an update from the township engineer on the Greer Park stormwater remediation plan to come to our October meeting and explain that.
You don't need to add. That you wouldn't need to add to the agenda for tonight. You're just asking for the township engineer to come for the Greer
Okay.
start, and that's fine.
Okay. And the second item is I would like to add a discussion about whether the EAC should draft a memo to the supervisors or Public Works, whoever's the appropriate body, about the budget item collection, the budget item about adding a 3rd leaf collection at the cost of $450,000. I've been in touch with George Sheritz about this, and I think this is a topic the EAC could submit a comment memo on.
what we can do is stick that item as 6.4 under, or 6.5 under new business.
Great.
So, yeah, so we're going to do 2 things. We're going to go ahead and have a first, we're going to have a vote to add that agenda item, even though
Okay.
it's to an agenda, even though you haven't passed the agenda yet. So you'll do that vote separate.
Okay,
And then when we get down to there, then you'll do the vote. And so we'll have to repost the agenda tomorrow and take those steps. So,
okay,
but so the first step would be to vote just on adding that one agenda item to the agenda before you then take an action to vote on the agenda.
do I need a motion for that vote?
Yes, you would
Okay.
need a motion, which I actually was taking what Cindy was doing was a motion
Okay.
to do
All
that.
right. Do I have a second on
I
that
second it.
discussion item?
Was that Janet?
Yes.
Okay.
Those in favor of adding the leaf discussion tonight to tonight's agenda, say aye. Those against, say nay.
So as I'm understanding, we're actually adding it as a discussion item, but also potential action of putting a memo together.
Exactly.
Just want to make sure
Yeah.
that I have it right for the
Okay.
agenda.
All right, so it's passed unanimously. It's going to be added as 6.4. And I'll do 6.5. second vote, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
No, now go
I'm
back,
sorry, the
now, sorry,
agenda.
now go back to your agenda as amended.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
What's that?
I move,
Okay,
yes.
second? Okay, all in favor of approving the amended agenda, say aye.
I
Aye.
to approve the agenda
Yeah,
as amended.
as amended. All right, that's the unanimous vote. It will be added. And next is minutes. Minutes are attached, were attached to what was distributed. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from our August 1st meeting? Must have a motion.
I move
Okay.
to accept them.
How about a second? Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes from the August 1st meeting, say aye.
I
Aye. All against, say nay. Passes unanimously. Moving to new business, we've got 5 items to cover. The first is a discussion and possible action on the upcoming Brookside Park tree planting. I've asked Cindy just give us, a summary of what's going on.
I will share what I know, but I defer to Steve to tell me if we need to take official action as well.
There's no official action needed, I
Okay.
believe, from here unless you would have a reason to oppose it for some reason. And I can't imagine that this group's going to oppose it since you're the group that kind of started the process.
Okay.
So where to begin? The tree planting is the actual trees, the species, quantity, and location are being determined in dialogue between the Public Works and Parks and Rec and Shade Tree. So I don't know what trees are where or how many, but that's all being worked out. The first part of the planting will happen Friday afternoon. I've been in touch with CRC to help recruit a corporate group for that afternoon. We are also encouraging all volunteers from the community who are interested in helping to come out that afternoon. I have posted that on Mainline Neighbors with a link to a sign up genius for that. And we are also tentatively having a Saturday morning planting session, also publicized in Mainline Neighbors with a sign up genius link. I will share that with you all, and I will be continuing to work with the township and other social media outlets to publicize that.
Is that this Friday?
No, it's September 16th and 17th.
And how about the source of the trees? You might as well mention
Oh,
that.
the source of the trees is, the trees are all free. They're coming from the Keystone 10 Million Tree Initiative, which is coordinated by the Chesapeake Bay Foundation and funded through organizations such as the Arbor Day Foundation and other organizations. The trees are like 2-foot-high native tree seedlings in 3 or 4-inch square, 9-inch deep plugs. And they also provide us free tubes that they will be planted in, stakes, tube socks to keep the birds from flying in, and stake drivers and work gloves, all free of charge. And George is working with Dave Hilbert to figure out planting locations. And part of the requirement for getting the trees is you're supposed to record the location of them on interactive platform that they have. And George said that he has staff people that have been trained in that. So they will be recording that for the Chesapeake Bay Foundation so they can get that information to the grant, the organizations that are funding them. And I've also flagged with George that that information perhaps should be shared with the Shade Tree Commission because they are responsible for a tree inventory. And if you're tracking species and location for one reason, why not do it for the other? So he seems like he's totally on top of that, not surprisingly.
So in summary, we're inviting everybody here.
Yes, we are inviting everybody to come out on Friday, September 16th. Exact times TBD. I think it's like 1 to 4 in the afternoon. I know you guys might be working then, so we may have a spillover event Saturday morning, depending on how many trees we get planted or not. So,
Are there any questions about the event?
I would just make note on two things that have come up. Some of the trees may actually come out of our existing nursery just to have a variety. Those trees would most likely be bigger trees. Most of them are probably close to 6 foot tall. So they need to get planted. So that we're looking at pulling some of those out. And right now, somewhere between 50 and 80 trees, I believe, will be planted on that particular planting. I think we ordered 70, 100, 125, 100, I forget now. But this particular planting right now, I think we have that many, and we're going to then plan a second planting later in the fall.
Great.
okay, I am not aware of any second plantings. So I
We're
have
just
no
starting to
way.
work on that because we want to make sure these trees, if they have to be planted by a certain point, are planted. That's all.
With that, I'm going to move to the next discussion item. As Steve had indicated, unless we have any objection, there's no need for us to vote. Next item is number 6.2. I'd like to review the agenda or the budget that I submitted in the July timeframe. Give you folks some perspective of doing. Just to start things off, there are two budget categories. One is capital for buying things greater than $5,000 and something that has utility over multiple years. We're not doing that, so no, we didn't make any requests for any capital budget items. We did make a request for a number of operating budget things, and I'll go through there. I'll be as specific as I can, but I'm forecasting what's going to happen, in 4 or 5 or 6 months from now. So everything isn't finalized, but I requested $700 for training for the purpose of us being proficient in what we do. This is training for us, for EAC members. That includes going to seminars, workshops, classes, anything else that might come up during the course of the year. There are an abundance of opportunities for us to take training like that. Second line item I have is activity support. We do things like participate in the farmers market, Pints in the Square, various events. In the event we incur some expenses, I put $400 in that category. Next is signage. This might happen this year, but at our community events in the past, we've hung up Arbor Day material or Bird Town material. I'd like to promote us a little bit, let the residents know that the EAC exists. So I was thinking of a banner or signs when we do those public events. The next one is just printing. What I also think would be nice to have is at our community events, we've been giving out a lot of Bird Town literature, which is great. But I'd like to give out some Newtown Square specific literature, a flyer of some sort, maybe with, maybe it's just a template where we can add event specific content to it. Things like maybe inviting people to a tree planting or making them aware our sustainable business or the township's sustainable objectives. The next I have $600 for the Sustainable Business Initiative. We're all set to go on that. The cost for that will be window labels, some collateral of some sort, and probably some mailing expenses associated with thanking people who have signed up. Not a mass mailing, because I'm actually you do the math and mass mailings are very expensive. The next one, last year, or I'm sorry, in the spring timeframe, we talked about having reusable bags printed for the purpose of encouraging people to take bags in lieu of grabbing the plastic bags in the grocery store. Harry and I thought of two ways to do this. One is just to print a bag. It says Newtown Square is sustainable or something like that with the logo, and maybe selling them at a small price or giving them away at community events. The other thing that Harry and I haven't talked about recently, but I'll mention, is we talked about having an art contest for the schools, letting students submit a sustainable oriented drawing that we would have printed on the bags, which will engage the schools, put us in the position of having to grade or pick a winner. But it would be a more personalized, more open way, I think, to make the communication. This could tie in with the township's discussion of a plastic bag ban, which is ongoing right now. We can talk about all of these items when I conclude. The next one is, we don't have all the expertise, obviously, and it would be nice to bring someone in instead of having to beg them to work for free, to compensate them in some fashion for some expertise that we might need. And I stuck $1,000 in there. I'm all ears if people have comments on any of these things, high, low, unnecessary, things I missed. And again, this is what I requested, not what we got.
I thought the bags were given out to those businesses. Okay.
I kind of don't, well, I don't think there's value in coupling that.
Okay.
I think that the window labels, maybe a letter from the supervisors is good, will suffice.
Recognition someplace.
Yeah. And we hope to recognize them in some form on the township website, and the following businesses have made this commitment. One thing we were wondering, Steve, does the township have a master list of all the businesses that are operating in the township?
We have a business registration list that any business that's registered in the township. We also have the list of businesses that pay the LST tax. What we have found is that sometimes it's very hard to marry those two lists.
Yeah.
In that a company so we may know the company as ABC Company
Right.
here in town, and that's what they go by, but their parent company may be XYZ. And so we sometimes have trouble, and that's who pays the, sorry. That's sustainability, the lights shut off when we're not moving. So that's who pays that, but XYZ Company actually pays the bill. And so we're having a hard time, that actually happens more often than we thought. And so we're working through that, trying to figure out how to marry those two lists together to know that we have the right, that whole thing. But that being said, is I have two different lists. We could probably work from at least the one that's in town here and have a pretty good list. We might have a couple others that we could get off of the LST tax if.
And there's Paul might have I'm certain Paul has some.
Yeah,
form of a list.
the difference with Paul's list is typically people that have joined his organization,
Right.
where our list is, you wouldn't necessarily have joined the organization. So I know our list is
okay.
more extensive.
Yeah. I sent, this weekend, I went to the Ellis Preserve website and they had a list of all the tenants.
Mhm.
And I printed that list and gave it to Paul. I was surprised how many tenants.
A lot of tenants,
Yeah,
and they're going to be adding a couple more.
yeah.
Oh.
It was in the 20s or 30s, I think. the number
Yeah, I think
saw.
you're going to see that number probably shoot up another 10 or 20
Okay.
before it's all said and done.
Can we talk about the plastic bags? I know that people were concerned about that expense. I have a little concern about the plastic bags and that I have 10 of them at
I
home.
mean, reusable.
I mean, the reusable bags.
So I'll start with a comment.
Sure.
I think that, first of all, I'd like to know if we sell them, who does that money go back to? But I think if we had some event where we were advertising or highlighting the ban on plastic bags, and here's a way you can really support your community and make a contribution, we'll give you a bag. I think anybody who buys a bag is more invested with it than somebody who's just handed a bag. I love the idea of getting the schools involved, putting a picture on the bag.
And you're the
if
school
that's not
liaison
too-
too, right?
If that's not too expensive, I think maybe an elementary, junior, and high school opportunity
Mhm.
to highlight what students are doing for sustainability is a great idea.
A couple thoughts on the reusable bag idea and linking it to the plastic bag ban. I think that however the program is structured, the disbursement of reusable bags should somehow be structured to overcome what we perceive as the biggest obstacle to getting that ordinance passed. Because I think that's the ultimate objective, is we want a plastic bag ban passed, right? I mean, isn't that the ultimate objective?
Yep.
Okay, so then if we think, what are the hurdles to overcome? Is it perhaps the Board of Supervisors is skeptical that there might be business pushback on that? Is that the biggest obstacle? Is the biggest obstacle users don't have bags, users or shoppers don't have bags, or shoppers aren't remembering their bags? You know, what is it that stands in our way of achieving our objective? And how can the handing out of plastic bag or reusable bags somehow be structured
Well,
so
the
that
other
it
part
helps
too is,
overcome that?
if the plastic bag ban passes, how do you communicate that to the community? Much like the shade tree
Yeah.
ordinance, people
Yeah.
don't know about the ordinance, and initially they won't know about the
Yeah.
plastic bag ban until they get to the store.
So one
Well,
that
there's
I
a certain amount of time.
Yeah, there'll be a
yeah,
6-month.
That there will be.
Yeah.
So a couple thoughts are, how have other townships done it? I know other townships are ahead of us in passing bans. So what can we learn from them about what they did to publicize it, to overcome resistance?
Mhm.
Can we emulate that? And then separately, I know there's restrictions on everything. Steve, if we make these bags available to businesses or whoever, can we charge? Or can we tell them that they have to, sell them? Is there going to be some kind of problem with that? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into, I mean, there are very specific things that second-class townships can and cannot charge for. You know, if we're just recouping the cost of something that we're doing, we're probably fine. If we're trying to do something greater than the cost, then we probably have to really look at whether or not we can do that. And so that is the biggest issue with some of these things. We've tried not to do a lot of charging for certain things just because it's easier. But then you have the whole issue, can I spend taxpayer dollars to go and do that? And so, you know, you have to have that balance. But there are some very specifics and we would have to look at that. If you're talking about just the reusable bag, whether we can charge for it and then whether or not,
Yeah,
how that would go. If we charge for it, I would say it would reimburse whatever we spent to get them. So therefore it would go back to the township for that purpose. Go back to answering Janet's question.
okay. And then my third point is, like, what's the timing on this in terms of when do we think, you know, if we think about the evolution of the plastic bag ordinance being drafted, being presented to the Board of Supervisors, like when might that come before them? And then that's running on one track, and the other track would be the art contest. You know, conceiving it, implementing it, getting the art teachers to do it, getting the drawings in, getting the bags printed. You know, how do those two things coincide? And would the contest be over and the bags be printed at about the time the ordinance passes? Just to think about coordinating those two.
Next spring.
Well,
Next spring, yeah.
to answer your question generally, I'm 2/3 the way done putting a kind of a plan together that would take us to a plastic bag ban.
Bruce, when you say 2/3, you were going to finish it. So you're going to go home tonight.
I'm going to finish the other third.
You were going to finish it today.
No, I said Wednesday.
So this is writing the ordinance or?
No, not writing the ordinance, but I looked at what Radnor did, Easttown did, Haverford did,
Media.
Media Westchester, and I have sequenced that collection of activities that took them to a plastic bag ban. And prudently, I'll give Leonard credit for this. Actually, the supervisor, they don't want to just say, here's the plastic bag ban.
Yeah.
They want everybody to have some input, residents and businesses, before an ordinance is written and before an ordinance is passed. So that's what my plan
Okay.
is going to do. I got to finish a third of it tonight for Harry. Here's what I might propose. That we leave the money in there, the $750 in there
For the bags.
for the bags. See what happens with the structure of the proposed ordinance and the timing. And if everything works out, I will put together an aggressive schedule, you know. I just hope we could move on this and we'll be in a position to make a go, no go with the bag purchase, you know, by Christmas time or by January.
So couldn't we, so essentially, if we're trying, if the reusable bag thing is kind of a two-prong attack, could we not just make one to promote the EAC initially and then change the version of it when the plastic bag ban goes into effect, and then we do whatever, we take another version of, do the art contest or however you want, or make another version of the Newtown Township reusable bag.
The thing,
Well, hold on.
Change
Let me just-
closer.
hold on. Let me just say, as the person who raised this as a project for the EAC, I raised it independently of the ordinance. In other words, I envision this as a way to feed some more responsible behavior by giving these things away at events where we were present, to encourage people to do the right thing, either in advance of the ordinance or if Steve had his way, in advance of no ordinance.
Excuse me.
I'm
I think that's an unfair characterization of my opinion.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
Well, I mean, you're saying something that's not even true, Harry.
I understand. I'm sorry. Look, I thought we decided to go ahead of this, and Dean and Joe had
Yeah.
already done a lot of investigation of the bag, and we were going to buy the bag and give it away. And now, for some reason, it's all gotten caught up in the machinery, and we've lost 6 months, and I don't
Well,
know.
we
what's
lost 6
happening.
months because of the school being closed for the summertime and
Well,
attempting to do the.
that's if you wanted to have an art contest.
Uh-huh.
You didn't have to have an art contest.
Right, that's what
You
I'm
could
saying.
put the
to-
darn little octagonal schoolhouse on there and be done with it.
Uh-huh.
That's what I'm saying. We can do the
I'm
the
sorry.
original
I was
plan
just having fun. Don't be-
first,
don't be-
and then if we propose to do an updated one, come,
Right.
you know, when
Uh-huh.
when to maybe promote the plastic bag ban, then we can do something at a later stage. But
Mhm.
we first initially get what Harry's plan was to get
Mhm.
this reusable bag out there, promoting our group,
Uh-huh.
and the township. And then, like I said, if we want to do an updated version of it at an advanced stage, then we can do that.
But we can't buy very many bags. I mean, $600 only buys 200 bags.
750, but you're right. No, you're right. And I found that out when I started looking into it myself. I found out that
It's just
the more I
drop in the
had,
bucket.
it compounded
Part of
everything.
it is it's education, but also too, like how to shop.
Uh-huh.
Once it's very.
Sure.
Carry the
Mhm.
issues too. Part of it's gotta be a little bit, hey, I think there was an article in the last press about it, or
I didn't see it.
there was something, it said from Newtown Township, DMC,
Really?
about why.
Oh, I put something in there.
we put that in.
Yeah, I wrote that.
I was surprised to see that. Did that. But, kind of have to educate. I think part of it is getting the bags out there, start getting building minds. Not banning, eventually it would be.
Mhm.
Be
Yeah.
optimistic about it.
I'll propose this, that we decouple the bags from the plastic, the recycling bag from the plastic bag ordinance. I think,
Reusable bag.
yeah, the reusable bags from that,
From the-
that makes, and reduces an element of complexity.
Sure.
In terms of double printing, what, you looked into Vistaprint, Dane?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I thought it looked great.
We're the bag subcommittee.
Yeah.
I don't have them.
no, that's okay, but
So
it,
there was a canvas option and then
Cloth,
I thought they
just-
looked great too, by the way.
Yeah.
They really did.
but if you do double art, you're gonna spend more money, right? Because you're not gonna, first of all, hit a quantity
Basic,
threshold.
right, to
we
get.
need double R. So-
I mean, two different.
Top
bags.
out. Can I stop you one second? Do you have your mic on? I don't think you're picking up.
Apologize.
Okay, thank you.
So in order to make it more complex, the bag is not. gonna
Yeah, it's gotta be simple, one color,
Yeah.
right?
If you're trying to get fancy with it, then that becomes
Yeah.
more expensive.
Something that says sustainability on it would be
Yeah,
good.
I don't have it up.
well, certainly not gonna resolve this in this meeting. This,
Well, I think we've agreed that we have the $750, right? And we're
Yeah.
going to use it for reusable bags if it's not. We have a backup plan, though. I have something in addition. So if by chance the recycled bags doesn't work out, or we change our mind or something, if possible, then maybe we could use that same amount of money. I've been begging for bat poles for Newbie Park, and it was based on input from neighbors. I had begged Newtown, the Parks and Rec, to put that on their expense items. But I understand because of the necessity of Greer Park and a lot of their resources will be going toward that project. They didn't want to kind of overly ask for too many things for
Right.
Parks and Rec's budget.
mhm.
So maybe as a backup plan, we could use that money or some of that money if the bags, I mean, I'm supporting the bags 100%, but if you choose not to go forward with the bags, then we could propose to maybe buy some bag boxes for Newbie Park, which would be really helpful. At our Newbie Park event in the spring, residents discussed how
from really April till September, October. They can't really use the park because the mosquitoes are so bad. And bat boxes were suggested. It would also be an opportunity for the residents to see that we're listening to their needs. And it aligns with our goals of pollinators and helping bats. So keep that as a backup plan, but I
Okay.
totally support the recyclable bags. And I think we could give those out at township concerts, at farmers markets. There's so many revenues if you feel it's a way to get the message out. So there's a plan B.
To that end, I have kind of an overall question, comment about the budgeting process. And my question is, I like how you have this listed: amounts, use, and objectives. When we get into the year, if we change our plans or ideas, how much flexibility is there in moving things around? Like, are we locked into this? Or if it's printing, does it have to be printing? Or are we locked into like community outreach and we have 600 for community outreach, but if we decide not to use it on printing, we could use it on some other form of community outreach? And to what extent, if we try to make any change, are we going to have to go to the Board of Supervisors for approval?
I can't answer that question.
So you're putting out a basic of how you plan on spend, you're giving a plan to the board with this budget of how you intend to spend the money that the board allocates to the EAC. And if you're going to deviate from that plan, then you need to go back to the board and have the board approve it. So just very similar to what we do, you know, we put a plan together for the board and we say, here's how we're going to spend money. Now, because some of this it's a little broad, you probably have some leeway. You know, if you talk about community outreach and you keep it in that vein, you know, we probably could just do it. If it moves to something, you know, that is significantly different, then you definitely have to go back. And we'll just have to look at that as you come up to it. But typically, you know, as long as it's within the vein of in the area, we budget for your group as a single bucket. We don't, like, I don't have 7 lines or however many lines that is. I think I'm counting 7. We don't have 7 lines in the budget, you know, with each dollar amount tied to it. You have $4,550. However, we take with underneath that line item in the budget, Rich actually creates a little, the system allows us to create a spreadsheet that says this is how you're going to spend it. And so that's how we know how to track. And we go back and track and say, yes, we're on target, or no, we're not on target for those kind of things.
So is it better in the budget to not have a use specified and just to stay with objective? And is there any threshold beneath which the Board of Supervisors doesn't have to vote on something? I'm thinking, what is like the township's total budget for the year?
So the way it's set is if we change, significantly change in the way we're going to spend it, whether it's $5 or whether it's $500,000, we take it back to the board. I say $5, typically not $5, but you know, any amount of dollars, you know, if we're spending $500, we would go back to the board and say, we're spending $500 here versus spending $500 here. And the reason for that, part of it's transparency to the public of how we pass our budget. And we say, we're going to spend money this way. And as long as we're spending money that way, there is some freedom in that. And so I don't get 100% locked into that. But if you tell the board you're going this direction, as long as it's still in that direction, I think we can take action as the staff and just approve it and move forward. If you say you're going to spend money on bags and you decide to spend them on cups because you think cups is a better way of communicating what you're doing, I'm probably not going to say it's kind of in the same move of what you're doing. If you say you're spending money on at poll boxes and then you decide to spend it on something that's, huh?
Bee boxes.
Well, B boxes may be similar, but if you were to spend it on maybe an outreach program, that's very different. And so we would want to make sure we'd let the board know. And most of it's more of a communication in some cases than it is an actual, the board has to, but we've set it as a public process. And I like to make sure that what we've done as a public process, we've gone back and kept as a public process as we go through the year. It's really a matter of being transparent in what we're doing. That's all.
Also a matter of us doing a little planning. And the
Yeah.
EAC doing planning.
But I do want to say this, I'm a firm believer that budgeting, and I'm going to give you an example that you may go, okay, why does that have to do with government? But, you know, if you're a business, right, and you're selling shirts and you have said, we're going to do blue shirts and we're going to do red shirts and we're going to do 75% of our budget's going to red shirts and 25% is going to blue shirts, and everybody's buying blue shirts.
Mhm.
What are you going to do? You're going to move your budget from here to here. So budgeting is a plan. However, in government, budgeting is also the authority to spend money in a certain way.
Mhm.
So I'm okay for the plan to change. And I
Right.
think that that's important. And I tell my staff all the time, our plan is this. But if we get in the middle of the year, and the middle of the year, that doesn't make sense. I don't want to go spend money on something, you know, I don't want to buy 70% red shirts and have them all sitting on the shelf
Right.
because that's not where people want to be, right? That doesn't make sense. But so that it's not that we can't change it, but I need to go back to the board to change it. Now, I will say this, for us, it's for you, it's a little bit easier because we budgeted in one line item. So I'm not changing my line item. So I have a lot more freedom in that than I do if I'm actually changing from, you know, like I'm not going to spend it in public works and now I'm going to spend it in the police.
Right.
That's an actual whole different kind of change that I have to do. But we just like to make sure that the board understands what we're doing. When we commit to spending a certain amount of money in a certain place, we let them know. And so they see what you've submitted. And so if you're going to go against that, I just need to let them know that it's a change. I can tell you, I've been doing this for almost 8 years here at the township, and they've never told me no, not to make a change in the budget that we thought was a wise decision and they thought was a wise decision. It's, you know, they're smart. They
Yeah.
understand that these things have to happen, but
Sure,
as part of the public process, we want to keep it
sure.
out as part of the public process. That's all.
I think we can manage it, to tell you the truth.
Okay, so we're continuing this discussion.
Yeah. You want me, any other budget comments? Should we vote on the acceptance of what I,
Yeah, if you submitted it without the board, without this group's approval,
Yeah.
I think it's important because that way because that is something that you want to do.
okay, great.
Bruce, how does this compare to the current year budget?
Pardon me?
How does it compare to this year's budget?
We
Is it
submitted
the
last
same
year,
or
I don't know the exact number, but it was in the $8,300 range.
Oh,
We did a good job of not spending much of that.
That was part of the planning, you know, 8%.
And the reason, with the presence of the Shade Tree Commission, we were kind of tree oriented in the past. Now Shade Tree is taking over that responsibility.
Well, so you said we did a good job of not spending money in 2022, correct?
Yeah,
So is there any money for Sheila's proposed bat box?
Yeah, it's the poles that are the problem. I think there are some bad boxes. It's the poles
they
that are
were-
the issue. So
take a look.
I would love that because it's really important that we listen to the residents.
Sure.
If that was one of their issues, and I know they wanted trees and a lot of other things that are not on the plate right now, but I feel compelled that if someone gives you a concern and we do nothing about it,
Sure.
we're not being helpful and, you know,
We address it.
right, we need to listen to the residents and their concerns.
Just related to that, I'd like to, when people do have environmental concerns or comments, I think we should invite them to drop it in the township, on the township website, to be relayed to us. I don't think people know we exist, to tell you the truth. And if they don't know we exist, I know they don't know how to contact us with any comments. So I'd like to see us publicize that as a vehicle for being in touch with us as well.
So may I ask whether Parks and Rec would be the committee that would fund bag boxes because it's being put into a park?
I just want to say, I share that observation, and I know this is a passion of yours, Sheila,
Right.
but this is a concern that was expressed to Parks and Rec. They heard it, it went to them for their consideration. It's a park amenity. I don't mean to be not in favor of habitat improvement, but it didn't come to EAC. Why are we spending money on a Parks and Rec thing?
I understand. It is, I understand parks. I
You know,
did
we're
ask
all
them for the
supposed to
budget.
stay in our own
I know.
lanes,
I
so
did.
they got to pay for their own lane, you know?
Well, the last time the polls went into Brookside, my husband and I personally funded them to make sure
Yeah.
it happened. So
Uh-huh.
I would love, some other way for the solution to come, other than having to come,
Uh-huh.
out of my own pocket. But,
Absolutely.
and I understand Parks and Rec felt compelled, and that's their decision. I'm not a board member there. I asked.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm just looking for any alternatives. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, if there is unspent money, then there's not really a huge reason why we wouldn't be able to do something like that, correct?
That's what I would think. It is, if there's unused money and we decided to do bat boxes, right?
The polls.
Polls,
Bag
polls.
box polls.
We're not talking about a lot of money here,
Yeah.
right?
I think if you can, I mean, and I'm sitting here and I'm going, I think you could tie it to an environmental,
Yes, because it is a
you know,
pollinators.
that there's a benefit to the environment to do it. I think that you could propose that that's what you would like to do with some of the dollars and do that. What I would say is we're getting dangerously close of having stepped outside
Right.
of the discussion of what you have on the agenda tonight.
Okay,
And
alright.
so like, if you're going to take an action, you're going to have to amend the budget, amend the agenda again to
Okay.
do so. So, but my recommendation would be, if you really want to do it, I think we would have time to still do it this fall
Right.
and use fall dollars to do it
Mhm.
and still be before the board and still do what you want to do
Okay.
and still get it done. So if you're interested in that, we could put it on your next agenda
Uh-huh.
and have you take action at that time as a next agenda item.
We can also exchange some emails between now and then.
Parks and-
Just,
Yeah.
just be careful.
Uh-huh.
If you're going to exchange emails, that you don't do it as a whole group.
Okay.
Because if you do it as a whole group and you start making decisions,
Uh-huh.
that is acting outside of the Sunshine Act.
Okay.
And the Sunshine Act requires you to take all your actions in a public setting.
Okay.
So is Parks and Rec also working on their budget for next year?
They are.
So that putting in environmental issues at the parks could be something that they could consider.
But I think what Sheila is sharing is that they have chosen not to make that a proposal that they're putting in theirs.
They have the expense of Greer Park.
They're focusing, they felt like they wanted to focus on Greer Park and a couple other things that are still hanging out from this year.
But we all work together, don't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think as long as you can show how it's an environmental piece,
Yeah.
the only thing that I would say is if you're going to actually put it in the park and you're going to do that, then you need to go back to the Parks Department or Parks Committee
Uh-huh.
and
Present that.
request them to approve you doing that because you're putting it in the park.
Mhm.
That would be the piece that you would need to do.
Well, let's do this. Let's close the discussion on the budget, but vote on acceptance or non-acceptance of what I put together. And knowing some of the parameters in which we have to operate. Do I have a motion to approve the budget as submitted?
Have a motion to approve it.
We have a second?
Seconded.
Okay. All in favor of approving the budget as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
All against? Passed unanimously.
We'll use our money wisely.
Yes, we will.
We'll use all of it.
Now, Janet, you're the star now. 6.3, we're going to talk about the
Okay.
bird town signs.
Bird signs, right. So we have passed our resolution to support the new Bird Town. It's not Audubon Bird Town, it is now Bird Town, PA. And I am here tonight to present our new sign, which has come in. And these are for the road. We have 6 signs that we have ordered through our invoice that Bruce decided the 6 would be a good number. So we're hoping to put these at various places where you come into Newtown Square and show that we are a bird town. So
Replacing the old sign.
replacing the old signs. The old signs must come down and you can give them back to me. We will be sure that as a member of the board of Birdtown, PA, we will properly dispose of them or recycle them. I'm going to say recycle the metal. So I could present this one to you tonight.
Okay. Why don't, would you like to do that to the Board of Supervisors?
I'd love to, if
I
we
think-
want to.
I think that would, I mean, I think it would be a better presentation, like,
Sure.
you know, to show that we give a little bit more
Absolutely.
publicity to it, being at a Board of Supervisors meeting.
Right.
We have one Monday night
Okay.
and we can do that. Rose, we can just remember to add that to the
I'll be
agenda.
available whatever Monday night.
Can you do it this coming Monday?
This coming Monday is the what?
The 12th,
The 12th? Absolutely.
okay? So we'll have you do that night
Good.
and that way we can,
Anybody on the EAC who wants to join in?
yeah, just to, you know, do the short presentation that we have that. And that's a great opportunity.
And then I was hoping to put something in the winter issue of the Newtown newsletter.
Yep,
I
if you're going to do
spoke
that.
with- I know the
if-
22nd, I think is.
Friday.
It was
September
the-
s-
I thought it was
Friday.
this Friday.
Yeah, the content's due Friday.
Oh, this Friday. Okay,
Yeah.
well, there's always another issue.
Uh-huh.
And let me see. So, yes, we're proud to be a part of this new Bird Town, which has 35 townships in the region here. And we're looking to grow because I think that sign on the road shows a real commitment to sustainability, to the birds, to the pollinators. And I will mention before I complete it here, that I've signed up to do the table at the farmer's market on the 16th of September. They had a cancellation. Pam Blauser said that she needed somebody to fill in, so I'm stepping up. So I'll talk about Birdtown again. With Cheryl Grasso, who has agreed to become a member of our Birdtown committee.
Good.
Happy to report that.
And you're also committed to do some bird walks.
Bird walk
this
on
year.
October the 1st, that has been tied down
Mhm.
with Garrett Williamson. It's in concert with the CRC. We've already lined up Mike McGraw, he's committed to it. And also Bonnie Whitmere, who is another good bird walk leader. So we're looking forward to that. And I will also mention, I was asked to be part of the planning committee of We Conserve PA. So that conference happens, it's statewide, happens on February the 25th.
Thank you for this, Janet. You've been doing a lot of work with Birdtown and the sign is very attractive. Thanks for taking the lead on that.
Just out of curiosity, what do you intend to do with the signs you take down?
We'll have them recycled.
Okay.
I mean, we can't have them up. Did you have a?
No,
you were
I,
thinking?
well, no, the reason why I'm asking is we reuse a lot of signs that we take down and do other things with them, but
If you want to paint them over or do something?
yeah, let me find out how, I mean, like unless you have something specific that you intend to do with them, then I'll just talk to George and he may say, just give them to you because they're not the right size.
Okay,
But we often take those old signs, go over top of them,
Fine.
and
That's a
reuse those.
reuse rather than a
Yeah,
recycle.
that's why I was asking.
Okay, all right.
But if I'll talk to George.
I'll just make sure that Heidi Shiver is okay with that.
Yep.
plan.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, we know they have to come down. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you all have a preference as to what road? I'm assuming 252 both directions, 3 both directions, and then that leaves us
I thought Goshen and Bishop Hollow would be,
which way on Goshen and which way on Bishop Hollow?
Goshen as you come from Willistown.
And then Bishop Hollow as you
Bishop
come in
Hollow
from
as you
Upper
come
Providence?
from-
Okay.
I think George wants to make sure we kind of spread the signs and don't have too many at one spot. You know, we have tree,
Oh, I see.
so I think he will work with George.
Okay, that's perfect. As long as everybody's okay that, because obviously we're not putting up at every location of the entrance to the township.
Right.
That's why I just wanted to make sure. Perfect.
Is there a need to vote on this? We've
There's
had to
no
go-
action needed.
Okay, all right. Next item we have is 6.4. And I thought I put an attachment here on it. It was pretty simple.
You did.
Okay, there,
Page 7 of 7.
okay. We've been involved, the EAC has been involved in a lot of grant activity. There's 2 parts of it. One is proposing to get a grant. And the second thing is the administrative and the work that comes with it. I think we've come to the conclusion that it's not for amateurs. And it should be done, we'd be more successful in getting bigger grants, more successful in the administration and use of the funds than we are now with, basically Cindy and I trying to pull this off. So the township, I saw on your budget proposal, a line item for a grant writing consultant. It would have, I guess, 2 purposes, as I understand it. One is to help in acquiring grants, and the secondly is to do a knowledge transfer so the township employees will be in a position to take advantage of these grants. What we'd like to do is feed the grant writer with environmental grants that we come up, we find.
So just so you understand, my intention is that we will probably do the initial writing of the grant in-house
Okay,
and then use the grant writer to take it to the next level, so
Okay.
to speak. So grant writers, you can do one of 2 ways. You can have them start from scratch and go
Right.
ahead and do it.
Mhm.
Or you can have them review what you've done and have them say, you need to do this, this, and this to make it better.
Right.
My goal is to have them tell us to do this, this, and this and make it better.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is what I have found is we have hired grant writers and some have been successful and some have not.
Yep.
And typically the ones that have not been successful have not spent enough time finding the information from the township that's important.
I can see that.
Why we need it, they don't understand.
Right.
What they understand is what the grantor is looking for.
Uh-huh.
And so the benefit, I intend to have somebody on our staff focus on grant writing.
Mhm.
I say focus, he won't be doing it all the time, but that'll be
Sure.
one of the things that he'll work on.
Mhm.
And so he will do the initial write, and then I want to have this person that we put in with the idea that they would take the grant after we've done the initial write
Mhm.
and do that. So my comment to you would be, we probably are still you would funnel it to not necessarily the grant writer, but to somebody here
Sure.
on the staff. And I don't know that that's what the board's going to support. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And then see what the board's support is. We've talked about hiring a person on staff who is a grant writer. I don't know that we can justify that. That's a hard lift. But then this is a way to make it go further and us to do more. And so that's the idea.
But we'd like to see a grant acquisition funding
Yep.
reserved, and if you think it has any value, we'd like to send a memo to the supervisors supporting that line item.
I think that, look, I don't think it hurts,
Right.
right?
Okay.
You know, and I think it states what you all feel is important.
Right.
And that you think that I would in it state that your desire would be that it would be used to do that at least a percentage of environmental
Environmental,
grants.
okay.
Based on the reason why you're asking.
Right.
I mean, I'm assuming that you're not necessarily wanting us to do grants to
We don't want it all
increase
to go to-
carbon footprint, you know? So, I mean, but you know, my point being that if there's types of grants that you would like assistance with, then I think it's important to state that in your memo, how
Okay.
you see that this grant writer would be beneficial.
Question
And
with
support the sustainability
Yeah.
that we are.
Yep.
And a question about the grant writers. So as you understand, there's some grant writers who just write the grants for a flat fee and some that are commission based based on the performance. So are you going to have like a basic retainer who's just going to critique what you're doing and giving you suggestions, but not necessarily marry through the entire process? Or how do you envision?
My goal would be to get somebody who's more of a flat fee type grant writer,
Okay,
who we would pay to review the grants that we write,
okay,
to add to, or to, you know, sometimes subtract from. Sometimes they go, yeah, you're spending way too much energy over here and not enough energy over here. One thing about it, you know, like what I've found is that, you know, we've actually brought in, the board has paid a grant writer
right.
probably a half dozen or so times since I've been here. And almost every time when we've gotten the grant written back, I've said it's lacking in our passion for what we're trying to accomplish, because they don't have the passion that we have. And so I want somebody to write it with the passion that we have, with them then reviewing it for the content that
Okay.
they know the grantor is
Right.
looking for. And that's where the benefit comes with the grant writer.
So it would be like a part-time basis or so many hours
It
per
would
year?
probably be like, so let's say we say we're going to go after these 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 grants next year.
Right.
Then I would say, I'm asking you to review these 5, 6, 7, 10 grants. That's what my, and so it might be 20 hours, it might be 120 hours.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure at this point.
I mean, I've been pushing, and I've actually spoken with multiple supervisors over the years, begging them for grant writers.
Mhm.
And I know a few of them have been very supportive of this, which
Mm-hmm.
is really helpful. I just hope that we pick the right person who has both the experience and the breadth and the depth of knowledge, because a lot of times it's being the first to know about some of those opportunities, because, you know, the grantor, it has their agenda. And so you have to marry the two ideas together, and that person has to be the fusion, and making sure that they understand what the township is looking for, but what the individual company who's providing the grant has their own. thing.
And,
So-
and it may be, I'm open enough to say for environmental grants, we may need somebody who focuses on environmental grants, and for
versus state or federal.
for bridge grants,
Right.
I need somebody who focuses on bridges, if that makes sense.
Yep.
In other words, my thoughts were to have a grant, to our area of what we do is so diverse. You know, at 1 minute, we're looking at how to handle a meadow. The next minute, we're looking at how to rebuild a bridge, or how to take care of a historic piece of property. They are 3 very, very different types of things. And you're dealing with 3 very different types of grantors.
Right.
And so it might be that you say, for this one, I need an engineer who focuses on historic bridges or historic preservation. And on this one, I need somebody who's whatever it is. And so my idea is that it may not be the same person for every grant.
Well, can we make a motion then that we give, I mean, if we take a vote that all the individuals here ask the supervisors that give a letter of support and encouraging them to do this, because it's really, we have a lot of plans in this township. I mean, look at Newtown Square Meadow Preserve, Greer Park, a lot of those plans, and they're sitting on the books. And if we don't do something to actually actualize these plans, they're just going to be sitting on shelves. So I would love it if we could give a letter of support asking the supervisors to move this issue forward. And I think it would be really helpful.
That's what we're going to take. Do we do the letter or not?
I'm 100% for the letter.
Are there any comments about the letter? I'll put it together. It won't be elaborate, but it will focus on environmental elements of the grant writer might do.
And sustainability to move us up the
Yep.
ladder.
Yeah.
To accomplish our goals. Yep.
There's a lot of grants out there too. so.
Right.
Definitely are.
Radnor has them, and Radnor is a very affluent township, and their full-time grant writer is able to get incredible things. So, we
They
should be
got
able
a
to take
grant
it.
for economic assistance.
I know. Creative writing, 101.
Anyway, do you have any comments for this? So I have a motion to accept the idea and approve the writing of a letter to the
Yes.
supervisors. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, nay? Passes unanimously.
Good stuff.
How time sensitive is this?
So probably within the next 30 days for sure.
Okay.
We're going to be presenting revenues on Monday night.
Okay,
And then the night 12th, I'm having a math problem in my head. The 26th, I believe is 14 days after that, we'll be presenting the combined budget.
okay,
And that would probably be an opportunity for that, that would be the ideal time.
yeah,
But if it's not ready for that, they're going to be discussing it up through probably the beginning of November.
okay. We can do that. Next item is, was added, it's item 6.5. It has to do with leaf collection. And Cindy, you proposed that that be added to the agenda.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. I was attending the Board of Supervisors meeting where there was a presentation of the budget as it stood at that time. And one of the possible items came to my attention, and that was the addition of a third leaf collection. I believe there are currently two, and the affiliated price tag with that was about $450,000 to add a third leaf collection. That caught my attention. So I've gone back and forth with George Sheritz to gain a little more understanding about this. And he verified that, yes, that is about the right amount of money. And that he had put this together as a cost estimate. He'd been asked to put together what would the cost estimate be to add a third leaf collection, because apparently there had been some requests from the public for an additional leaf collection. He said that he personally was not really in favor of it, but he put the estimate together. And as he briefly explained to me, it encompasses labor and the addition of a capital expenditure for the equipment that would be required for this. I think that environmentally, spending that much money for one more leaf collection is at total odds with what we're trying to achieve, not only in terms of habitat improvement. I mean, there's been a lot of research lately that emphasizes the value of leaf litter for the health of trees, the health of insects. Our pollinators populations are plummeting, and leaf litter is critical to supporting not only the health of trees, but the health of insect populations.
Because they overwinter.
They
under the leaf litter.
overwinter in the leaf litter. It
Yes.
creates, I'm trying to keep this brief. But also, as Janet pointed out to me, the Delaware County Sustainability Commission, as one of its objectives in its sustainability plan, is one of the areas that its plan addresses is waste and waste reduction. And they have an aspirational goal of zero waste. So to me, declaring that leaves are waste and we need to spend $450,000 adding an additional collection to take away something that homeowners should really be keeping on their property anyway is at odds. So I would like to ask the EAC if they support developing a comment letter on this particular budget item and providing that to the Board of Supervisors from the EAC, explaining our position and that we would recommend against it. So that's what I would propose. I would be willing to draft that. And I would need to know from Steve, like when that letter should be, or memo should be presented to the board, and how we as an EAC can vote on that in an appropriate timeframe.
Well, couldn't we vote
No,
tonight?
but we would have
just
to, still have to review it.
With the
We
letter,
could
yeah.
vote tonight to have me draft it,
Okay,
but then according to the sunshine laws, I could not circulate it to the EAC via email and have them vote on it
right.
Yeah.
via email.
Mhm.
So we wouldn't be able to vote on it till the beginning, till our October meeting, and I don't know if that would be too late.
So you can approach this two ways, okay? If you are specific enough tonight in like what your topics are that are in it. Like, so for example, even what we just did in regards to the support of the grant writer. And we've said related to EAC, related to environmental issues, related to sustainability. And it's written in that way, you potentially could go ahead and move forward with the direction without the actual wording being written out tonight, if in that way. It would be better, to be honest with you, to come back to the EAC and do exactly what you're saying. Cindy, you're actually saying this is the letter that's going forward. But what I would say is time-wise, it's basically the same timing as the one that we talked about just a minute ago. They're both on the same, they're both in the same budget cycle. I think, again, this is a good opportunity to show that environmentally, there are some things you're supporting and some things you're not. And so I
Right.
think that that's a good opportunity and you should do both in that way. So
So we can,
We can move.
So we
if-
can-
yeah, I think you have time to bring it back to your October meeting, which is, I believe, the 3rd. Yeah, October 3rd. And then we could present it to the board on October 10th, both of the letters that you want to do and do it. The challenge would be is if you came back on the 3rd and you're heavily rewriting them, you're back in the same position.
Right.
And so that would be my only concern.
We can make
Aren't
them
they
distribute.
already collecting leaves by that time?
So,
Won't the schedule
so,
already be
so the
set?
purpose, so there will not be 3 leaf collections in 2022.
Okay.
We've only budgeted for 2.
Oh.
This request is for the 2023 budget. And just to give a little bit of background, we were in a public, we hold public finance or public budget meetings, and we invite the public to come out. We review what we've done so far in the year that we're in, what we think we're going to finish doing, what our position is, and then we talk about the strategic plan, what is in the strategic plan of what we're trying to accomplish. And then we say, are there things that you think the township is not focusing on that we should be? And so we got a handful of people that showed up, and I say handful, I think there was a total of 7 different people that showed up. We recorded all of the things that they felt like they thought we ought to add. And this was one of them. And, in full disclosure, George and I are on the same page. George and I both do not, first of all, we don't believe another leaf collection is necessary. We do 2 already for
Right.
people who want to do it. If you know the week that we're coming through, to spend another $450,000 on this, I can think of a lot of other things
Yes.
that would be more
Trees,
beneficial
right.
to the township, in our personal opinion. That aside, that sometimes we don't necessarily agree with things. We just move them forward because they've been asked. And this is one of those things that was asked. And we're moving it forward and accordingly and letting the board make a decision up or down and in doing that. And so that is the case. Now, I would say this, it is a $450,000 expense up front. I think on a year-to-year basis, we've came back and we've said it really is about, if you take the equipment and spread it over the life of the equipment, we're probably looking at about $70,000 a year between the cost of people and the cost of I'm saying that off the top of my head. I may be off $10,000 one way or the other. But we have gone back and I have asked Rich to look at it and say to the board, you're looking at it two ways so you understand there is an initial upfront we would be taking from capital to do this. And then secondly, you would have an ongoing expense. And it would require another driver. It would require another truck. It would require another set of leaf rakers at this point. And, again, we go back and, we've been trying to figure out how to, George and I would like to figure out how to get it down to one. Personally, we thought we had it down to one in 2020. It worked out well because we only could do one, but there was a lot of pressure to go back to two because that's what the community wanted and we did it. But but anyway.
Can I ask two questions? Where do the leaves go?
So we collect the leaves and they go to Haverford Township. We have an agreement with Haverford Township. They have a company that comes in and picks up their leaves and they get processed and it's processed back into compost.
But we don't get any of that back.
We don't get any of that back.
Why? Why?
Because that's not what we have as this agreement. So prior to 2000 and I think it was 18, we had a leaf place that we took it here in the township. We turned it over. At the end of the year, we ended up with compost and we had compost that we gave out, right? And we lost our leaf collection site. It was part of the Lissitor property. We lost that site. We've been looking for a new site. We've had several possibilities. In fact, in the budget is a consultant to help come in and help us find a leaf site that would make sense and potentially do it differently than what we did it in the past. In past, we did a leaf site that required a lot of manual and intervention of turning the leaves and doing those things. Markwold has a really wonderful program. They don't turn their leaves. They actually infuse it with oxygen. There's actually pumps that pump the air in. It actually deteriorates right there on the spot. They pull out the oxygen tank, oxygen tubes at the end of the year. They pull it all together and they have their compost that way. There was not enough room to do it at Markwold. That's what we wanted to do. We wanted to piggyback with them and try to do that. They didn't have a big enough area to allow us to do that. There are lots of requirements of how far you have to be away from somebody's house. Leaf composting is not always the most pleasant smelling event. And so you have to do that. And there are some times that you have to add chemical to help keep the odor down and things like that and help with the composting process.
But Steve,
Not near.
I'm just trying to understand the issue. Adding a third collection, do you think the person who suggested this doesn't like to see all the leaves in the streets waiting to be collected? Or do you think that you come through too early with the second collector and he's got leaves after the end of the, I mean, what is?
So, I mean, without spending a tremendous amount of time trying to tell what a person's individual opinion is, I don't want to do that. What I've heard has actually been two different things. One is they think we come through too early. And if you happen to be on the early run, and George really works every year to move it around so that it's not the same street every year that's early and every street that's the latest. Everybody would like to have it the week of Thanksgiving because they don't want any leaves on their street while they're doing Thanksgiving. And then everybody would like to have it right before Christmas because they don't want any leaves in front of their house at Christmas. And, we're too big of a township to do that. To do two runs takes 4 trucks every day for 4 weeks, and then you do it again for the next 4 weeks. It's very labor intensive. We do have a
Well, they do a nice job. I
Yeah, oh, our team is great. And I will promise you this, we go down a street and we clean off the street. And usually by the time one of the trucks gets back here, there'll be somebody who calls and says, the truck skipped my house. And I'm sorry, I've been here long enough to know the truck didn't skip somebody's house. I mean, they don't. They walk down the street and they just go run right to the next. But, you know, their leaf guy came up and blew it all out to the street, you know. And here's the truth. People put it in the street and it should never be in the street.
Right.
It should only be on their yards, and we come by and we would vacuum it up right off the yard, but at the edge of the street. But people always dump it into the street. It is a challenge for us. You know, I would be more than happy for most people to let it just go back into their yards. It's healthy for the yard.
Mow it up.
Just mow it up, mulch it into place. It's a great way to make your yard healthy.
We
And
need education on that.
Well, yeah, that's what we were saying when we're talking about the letter and maybe the third, and oak trees do typically drop their leaves the last. So that's why a lot of times past Christmas time, you'll see leaves are on there. So that I can understand people's concerns. But if we have a letter to the Board of Supervisors, obviously we can bring that, but we really need an opportunity for communication with our residents to make them aware of alternatives. So mulching them up, but we also have to give them practical ways, you know, if you know, obviously as leaves decompose, that's nitrogen. And if you provide them with other, you know, cow manure and things of that nature, which helps the process in your own garden. And it's a great garden enhancer.
Yeah.
So you've got to just show them what they can do with the leaves instead of just saying, no, let's not do it. But I would hope that we would all not be favoring a third pickup, because timing is essential. And I did like in COVID year, you did get that one day, and it was helpful because really is, if you've ever had to put leaves out early, you put them out there and they say they're going to be on your street that week, and 7 o'clock Monday morning, you have them out there and they don't come, and that week, and it just is frustrating because, you know, situations happen, or rain or snow. We've been in situations, but I do like before when we had that specific day, that was actually really helpful. And
I mean, it's a challenge because, you know, we did that and then turn around and you have a day where it's pouring down rain and we can't pick up the leaves and we have to wait until so it gets put off to another day.
Right.
I mean, it's there, and that's the same thing that happens when we do it. We say, your area is going to be this week, you know, and so anyway, I don't want to take any more of your time, but that's my understanding, that the person that wanted it as a third time was because they felt like there were things that got missed and it would be another opportunity.
Go ahead.
I have two questions, hopefully very brief answers. What is the piece of equipment that needs to be purchased that's creating such a large capital expenditure the first year?
So we actually need two pieces of equipment. We need another leaf trailer, which is, there are about
Okay, a leaf
100,000.
trailer. I'm sorry, and then what's the other piece?
And the other piece is the vehicle that pulls it.
Okay, and what would be done with the trailer and the vehicle the other 10 months of the year?
The trailer would, it just sits there. I mean, we,
Sits there.
just like the 4 trailers we have now, they're used 2 months a year and they're not used after that.
Okay.
The truck, potentially, we would never buy a truck that couldn't also push snow. And so that would be the other potential use of the vehicle. But right now we have a full complement of trucks. It's just, if I'm doing that, I don't have enough trucks to add another
Okay.
trail.
Okay, thank you. And the second quick question is to go back, you said right now the leaves go to Haverford, the vendor picks them up, compost them, and then they're returned to Haverford?
No, this is, I think
They
it's,
just go away,
it's hauled away and they're
and
used.
Haverford never gets it back.
I don't think Haverford gets it back. If Haverford got it back, we would request a portion of it.
Okay,
Radnor
Thank
gets
you.
some of theirs back.
Well, Radnor does it on site. They do it in the township.
yeah.
And we have gone to both Radnor and to Marple, who both do it in town, and requested to do it. Trust me, we do not like hauling leaves to Haverford. It's incredibly time consuming. It's incredibly expensive. but it's the method that we're using today because we don't have anything that's right here.
So can we make?
Yeah, here's what I'd like to
Propose.
propose. We vote tonight to ask Cindy to write a letter, which she'll distribute it in advance of our next meeting. Please read it before the next meeting, and so that we can vote on whether we should pass it on or not to the supervisors in our October meeting. Does that meet with people's approval?
That's fine with me. I just will be out of town on October 3rd. So
Okay.
can I dial in and join that way?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, do I have a motion to ask Cindy to write a letter, a draft letter that we will approve in October or review in October that will be passed on to the supervisor? Do I have a motion from somebody?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
second? Okay. Now cast a vote. All in favor of asking Cindy to write a comment letter for us, say aye.
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 All against, nay? Okay, passes unanimously. We're on item 7, which is old business. I have no old business to discuss. We don't have any public comment. I'll take suggestions. We just talked about 2 items for the next agenda, one of which is Cindy's comment letter, one of which will be mine for the grant writer. Anything else you'd like to see covered the next?
I think Cindy requested asking the engineer to come in to talk about Greer Park. Is that
Okay.
correct?
All right,
The stormwater, the stream bank restoration plan.
okay. Janet?
I'd like to see if we can have someone from Rockstar come in and talk about composting
Okay.
here in the community, because this is another issue of throwing really good stuff in the trash. And we should be composting. And if you read the county's sustainability plan, it includes composting, but it's a while before they get to that. So we could see about whether or not, even if we don't have the township do a collection, hopefully move in that direction, but we could encourage people to use Rockstar or Mother Compost if that is their choice, so that they can be sustainable in their own property.
I'd like to hear the story, hon.
Okay. Good, thank you.
I would like to also ask that prior to our next meeting, Bruce circulate what our goals are for the year, because we're coming up on November. And I think it would be good at our October meeting to revisit
Okay.
what we've accomplished and not. And I did go back through the old agendas and minutes, and I found in the minutes where like 5 topics were raised, but then I don't know if those were the ones that were approved.
Okay,
So just
so that'll be on the agenda.
great.
And also something around in advance of the meeting to serve as an agenda attachment.
I do have one thing as liaison for Parks and Rec. They're having a major event on Saturday, October 1st. It'll be in conjunction with Newtown Township Railroad Museum. It'll be a kids concert, and it'll be featuring the Plants, which is a neat kids band. The train museum will be open from 10 to 4 that day. The concert will be from 12 to 2. There'll be face painting, petting zoo, characters there and it's all focused around the train museum theme. So it'll be a really exciting day. All of the proceeds will benefit, there'll be food available, will benefit the train museum. So it's a really great day for the community, a family fun day, and it's in conjunction with Newtown Township Parks and Rec and the train museum. So if everyone can, I'll share all the information with you, but it's a really exciting day.
The same day as your bird walk, though.
The
Yes.
bird walks in the morning,
We're out-
8:30. The
Okay,
bird
We're
walks.
out
in-
there bright and early.
Yeah,
okay.
and Janet, if you can send the event link to that.
It's being made up.
Oh, perfect.
It comes out through CRC.
All right, I know many people that would love that.
Just to give a report, as I'm the liaison to the Shade Tree Commission. The Shade Tree, I have no report because the Shade Tree Commission has not met in June, July, or August due to a lack of quorum.
We have met. So, and this meeting is over. So it's 6:35 and I'm going to call the EAC meeting to an end. Thanks everybody for coming.
What? No.
I just thought it was an unfair characterization of my personal thing, and I accept your
The members
apology.
have been unable to attend the meetings, so
I
they
just-
had to
yeah.
cancel the last 3 meetings.
All forgotten.
They're all vacationing.
So I need a name.